What's up, everyone? It's Brian. Hope you guys are having a nice start to your holiday season and that everybody's got a good Christmas and New Year's coming up. I wanted to talk today about the dangers of winter camping. I've been winter camping now since, my first winter was 2015, 2016, and I've winter camped every winter since then. Last winter, I was in an off-grid cabin for a little bit, but it was only like half of the winter, and I still was in a four-season tent. And I've learned a lot about how to stay safe when you're in the backcountry, but you have to keep in mind that if you're solo, I had a huge breakfast burrito. If you're solo out there in the backcountry, accidents can happen. And typically what I've found is that it's never anything that is huge. It's never like, your car blows up or, a bear attacks you or something like that. It's an accident that you never plan for, which can knock you down pretty far. So this video is about the first season that I was winter camping and how I got third-degree burns down the right side of my leg. And I think I was only 3 weeks into winter camping for the full-time winter camping endeavor. I committed to going the whole winter, that first winter, and I was actually out there for 5 months, but for 2 months of it, I couldn't really walk because I ended up burning my leg really bad. So this video is about that. It's pretty graphic. I've got some let me turn this off. It's my computer. I've got some pictures that's going to show the injury that I had, and basically what a rundown is that I wasn't paying attention to my stove that I have, and I was cooking some bacon over it, and I wasn't paying attention, and I paid the price for it. So what happened was that I was out there, and I do these big bacon breakfast burritos every morning. I love it. I love eating bacon. And I cooked, I think it was about 6 or 7, it was 8 pieces of bacon in my little skillet that I have. I have this MSR skillet that I've had since I was in Boy Scouts. And it's great because the heat transfers real quick from the wood stove to the skillet, so you can cook things up fast. And I've now gone to using a cast iron skillet, which is great, but that takes a lot longer to heat up. And back then I didn't have cast iron, so I was using this little skillet, and I had a jacket which I would wear in the morning. It was kind of like an insulated lightweight jacket, just as I was getting like the tent heated up and all that stuff from the evening prior. And so this jacket had little hooks that were on the sleeve, you see the ones that have hooks, and that's basically what you would put your gloves in, so that way if you're out and about and you're working on stuff and you take your gloves off, so you can take them off but they still stay attached to your sleeve, and then you can easily just grab them and put them back on. It helps to it's just a convenience thing that some gear has. So I was baking the bacon. I was cooking the bacon, and I think I had the coffee, my kettle, on the stove, and then the bacon was over here, and I was all done with cooking the bacon, so I got it out of there, but there was a bunch of grease that was still inside the skillet, and it had just been sitting on the stove for like 10 minutes, and the stove was running pretty full bore because I was also boiling up some water. So anyway, I hand grind coffee, and I ground up the grounds, and I put the AeroPress into the coffee cup that I was going to use and put the grounds in there, and then I went to go grab the water. Well, when I grabbed the water, I got the kettle, lifted it up, and when I did that, the hook that was on my sleeve ended up catching onto the handle of the skillet, and when I pulled back, it pulled all that grease and it went down on my leg, on my right leg. Now it started at my knee and it went all the way down to my foot. And what happened was I ended up getting third-degree burns, and I was wearing a synthetic long underwear pants at that time. And the long underwear melted, and it melted into my skin. And I remember it, man. I tell you, that pain was horrible. And there was somebody that was snowshoeing. I think they're probably within maybe a half mile or something like that, or maybe a quarter mile. And they told me, I let out this yell. I mean, it hurt so bad, and Sierra just freaked out because I was screaming at the top of my lungs. And this person, I could hear them way off in the distance, like, "Are you okay?" And they came running over, and they got there within a few minutes, and I went outside and they saw my leg, and my leg on the right side where the oil, where the cooking or the grease hit it, the bacon grease, all the long underwear was gone, because it melted into my skin, and my skin was starting to sag because the burn happened so fast and it just started to go down. And so I told him, I said, hey, I got to head into town. There's a doctor that's about 20 minutes away, and I'm going to go in and see him and see what he has to say. And so when I got into town, I went to go see the doctor in Buena Vista, Colorado. And he told me, he said, this is a 3rd-degree burn. We're going to have to remove the skin. A lot of the skin is going to slough off as well, even after we kind of go through this first part here. But they wanted to get the synthetic long underwear, out of that skin because it would just cause infection. And so, long story short, we got that all squared away, and it was really bad. And I couldn't put any weight on my leg because I'd stand up, and just the change in blood pressure from having my leg elevated to when I would stand up like this, the blood would rush down. Just that change in blood pressure that would make my leg increase in size just a minuscule amount was excruciating. I could stand up for about 15 seconds before I would just have to sit down and get my leg elevated again. And ended up that I got snowed in at camp for, I think it was 8 days, and I couldn't go into the doctor to have them change the dressing, so I was using my iPhone to do a video conferencing through FaceTime with the doctor, and he would direct me on what to do, and I'd have the phone pointed at my leg, and he would tell me, okay, now you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this. And I kept thinking that my leg was getting infected because it was always wet, where the wound was, and I'd put the dressings on, and after 2 hours, everything would just be sopping wet, and it had a really good, disgusting color to it. And I thought, my leg's getting infected. I'm going to have to stop winter camping. This sucks and everything. But the doctor told me, he said, that's not infection. What that is your body's weeping. And apparently, when you get a wound that is that deep, a burn that's that deep, it takes off the epidermal layer of your skin, and your body is constantly excreting water, and nutrients from that wound. And he told me, as I learned some interesting facts, that back in the old days when people would get really bad fire burns and wounds like that, they wouldn't die from the pain, they'd die from dehydration because their body couldn't keep in any fluid. So your skin actually keeps in that the moisture, to keep you hydrated and all that stuff. And so he told me, he's like, you just have to push water constantly. And so I was constantly drinking water and getting that going. But the reason why I wanted to tell this story and what happened to me is that, you can't plan for everything when you're out there. And so I think having a first aid kit is extremely important when you're winter camping. Having something that has to deal with burns if you're working with a wood stove is important. I think also too, just for a safety precaution, having a fire extinguisher, which doesn't have anything to do with burns obviously, but just having a fire extinguisher is good when you're working with a wood stove. And just be extra careful on everything that you do if you're going to winter camp, because the conditions are different out there. If that would have happened in the middle of the night, and if I would have had a really bad burn, say it would have gotten my eyes or messed with my vision or something like that, who knows what could have happened. And there's been evenings out there where I've had temperatures that have dipped down extremely cold. And, you don't want to be solo in the backcountry away from any sort of help or anything like that, and put yourself in a spot that could potentially be life-threatening. Now this wasn't life-threatening. It was just a burn on my leg, and after a couple months, I was able to recover from that. The lingering effects from a burn is that if I'm out hiking and I don't have the area on my leg covered, the sun just burns it immediately. I immediately get a sunburn on it. The skin itself has always been very thin, and meaning that if I bump into something with my leg and I don't have any clothing on the outside, the skin immediately cracks and breaks open. So I always have to be mindful of that. And it itches all the time too. Hey sweetie, what you doing? I got Sierra down here. It itches all the time as well. So burns are no joke, and you just got to be careful when you're out there winter camping. And I hope I didn't gross anybody out with these pictures that I posted of my leg, but I just wanted to remind everybody that if you're going to undertake these endeavors, make sure that you're you're kind of crossing your T's and dotting your I's and making sure that you've got all your bases covered, because you can get yourself into a predicament that could be pretty dangerous in relatively short fashion. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, hit me up in the comment section below.